Political editor Christopher Hope has just scurried back to our Westminster studio after being in a rather important Downing Street briefing. Christopher, can you tell us what you've learned in terms of what will be being announced on migration policy today?
Yeah, Tom and Emily, it's a very, very big week for migration policy. Two things are happening this week. Today we'll hear measures to bring down that level of net migration. 745,000 people arrived here, more arrived here than left here in 2022. The government, of course, came into power in 2019 when the figure was 219,000 and said that figure would come down. Instead, it's more than tripled since then. The government is alarmed. Tory MPs are cross, particularly in what are called red wall seats. So today, around 5:30 or so, the Home Secretary James Cleverly will announce new measures to control net migration, control numbers of migrants who can come here, as people thought was going to happen after the 2016 EU referendum. Chief among those changes will be to increase the salary you must command to get here to around £38,000 a year, up from around £26,000 a year. That should really restore what existed before the EU referendum in 2016, when you had to be a graduate to come here and stay here. So it's really a return to graduate salaries to come and settle here. There'll also be some measures to try and stop people arriving here and bringing over family members. Now, that was the case in students. That was meant to end, or beginning to end, in September. They'll look at other different areas of the economy, maybe health sectors and elsewhere, to try and stop that happening. These measures have not yet been checked by the Office for Budget Responsibility. We do know the Treasury relies on a certain figure of net migration, around 250,000 a year, to ensure we have growth. That has not been checked by the OBI. It may have a bearing on forecast figures next year. Earlier today, I was with Jeremy Hunt, and he said their big challenge in the government is to try and fill these 1 million vacancies with as many as 6 million adults of working age who aren't working. So there's a big challenge to get more Brits back into work and control the net number coming in. That's the first part of this week, Tom and Emily. The second part is the Rwanda Treaty. You all know about that, don't you? This is a deal with Rwanda to try and break the business model that stops migrants coming across the channel into southern England. The idea is to take them, move them into Rwanda and process their work there. The Supreme Court has said that's out of order. It might damage their human rights. They could be returned to a country where they're at risk. The government will announce measures this week, the new treaty, to ensure that they are not put at risk and Rwanda can be seen as a safe destination for them. And that could be announced as soon as Thursday. So a big week, I think. I would almost say a seismic week for the Prime Minister. He's got to get this right. They confirmed today they want to stop the boats. We know that. Stop the crossings. But also control net migration. Lots of Tory MPs are still telling me that letters of no confidence are going in about the PM about this matter. It's very concerning, I think. And finally, the PM is getting grip.
Yeah, Christopher, it's hard to overstate how important it is for Rishi Sunak to build back some trust on this issue after those record net migration figures 2 years in a row. I mean, looking at polling as well that's in the papers today, Rishi Sunak less popular than Liz Truss among key voters, Sunak losing votes to Reform, which is, of course, a party that is very strong when it comes to immigration. Doesn't look good. Is this new package of measures a reflection of that?
Well, I asked the PM spokesman for GB News viewers at the briefing at lunchtime to say, why now? Why have you suddenly got a grip on this issue now, given the figure is 1.2 million net arrivals in the 2 years to June 2023? And they just said, well, they have now noticed a degree of abuse by some people, maybe family members coming over with other migrants or lawyers taking advantage of it, so they feel they want to get a grip with it. So that's the thinking behind it. There's other things too for the lobby meeting just now. The government said it would look at whether it wants to support a new law to reverse Sadiq Khan's expansion of the ULEZ scheme in Greater London. There's a backbench bill published by Gareth Johnson, a Tory MP for Dartford, on Wednesday. When that's published, the government will see if they want to back it. I also asked a question for Tom. Tom, I asked him whether the government supports the sphere idea in East London, this new this new concert venue, Tom.
Yes.
Of course, it was called in by Michael Gove, who's the levelling up the community secretary. Because there's now going to be a public inquiry, the government can't comment. But I'm keeping up the pressure for you, Tom, on behalf of your very precious sphere.
The suspense is killing me. Of course, Sadiq Khan kiboshed it, and we all thought it was over. Michael Gove has brought it back. Will this £2 billion potentially in foreign direct investment come about? Well, it's a shame that the government is not wanting to comment. But Christopher, I have to say, we had Michael Fabricant, the Tory MP, on the programme a little bit earlier. He said he was expecting that all Conservative MPs will have to stay in Westminster on Thursday, when normally they go home on Thursday afternoon. We're expecting potentially a pretty significant vote then.
Yes, not a vote so much as emergency legislation to push through these changes to human rights laws. Now, what might happen, and Michael won't know, no one knows yet, outside of the small group of people around the PM and the Home Secretary James Cleverly, what they might look to do is disapply the human rights of people who arrive here legally across the Channel, to allow them to be taken back to Rwanda for processing. So whether their human rights can be disapplied in this emergency legislation to make this Rwanda plan work. Now, it should get through the House of Commons because of the Conservative working majority of around 50, but it might well fall foul of the House of Lords. So what the government wants to do is announce it now, well before Christmas, and there must be 2 or 3 weekends before it can be looked at by the House of Lords. The House of Lords is the problem. There's no government majority there, and it's not actually part, as you know, Tom, in the Salisbury Convention, may mean it can't be used to overturn. So it's going to be quite a battle with peers in the spring, which could even lead to an early general election. Let's not go too far down that front, but certainly this week we're going to see laws which could try and disapply the human rights of those arriving here legally. That will be very, very contentious.
Another battle with the House of Lords, just what we need.
I spoke to a Conservative MP recently who said it's a good job they have David Cameron in the Lords now to do this battling for them. Perhaps that'll be an interesting point of contention.
That's a very good point.
Christopher Hope, thank you so much for bringing us the very latest there with those new, fresh lines straight out of Downing Street.
Brilliant.